National Nutrition Natural Health Reviews. 3 minutes of the latest naturopathic info with Canada's leading nutrition experts. Watch, learn, and get healthy naturally.
Hey there, Naturopathic Doctor Jonathan Beatty, health expert here at Nationalnutrition.ca. Many people come into my practice, with a variety of symptoms, and oftentimes they don't realize that what they're actually suffering from are food sensitivities. So today we're going to discuss food sensitivities, what their symptoms are, what they are, how they differ from a true allergy, and some of the things you can do to try and figure out if you have them, and if you do, how do you treat them. So a food sensitivity, really it's the proper term that actually encompasses food allergies and any other type of immune response that you have to a food. So essentially what's happening is your body is picking up a part of the food known as an antigen, and that's triggering a specific immune response, creating the production of antibodies, and that's what we translate as a hypersensitivity or a food sensitivity response. Allergy is just one type of hypersensitivity response. Allergies, they're the ones that are the easiest to diagnose. Typically if you eat a peanut and your throat swells shut, that's a food allergy. They're typically what we call the anaphylactic responses, whereby you develop, some severe allergic response, typically within seconds to minutes of consuming the food, although some allergies do take hours to manifest. The most common food allergens around, your peanuts, your shellfish, sesame is a very common food allergy, dairy, and then gluten. And so these are some of the common ones, but I've seen all sorts of different allergies. I've seen food allergies to spinach and a whole variety of things. So just because it's not a common one doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Now, food sensitivities, they're a lot more broad spectrum. Food sensitivities don't just manifest with that typical anaphylactic response. Just because you don't have hives doesn't mean you're not having a sensitivity to the food. And sensitivity symptoms can present all different manners. I've seen cognitive decline. I've seen patients with arthritis related to food sensitivities, dermatitis, skin rashes related to food sensitivities, acne. I've even seen cases of autism spectrum disorder where it's related directly to a food sensitivity. And these are people that have reactions to food, not necessarily always causing a digestive upset. Obviously, that's one of the easiest triggers, is that, obviously if you eat a certain food and it causes some level of digestive upset, say for instance, you eat a food, it causes heartburn, probably a food sensitivity. You eat a food, it either causes you to become constipated or causes loose stool and diarrhea. Once again, you're looking at a probable food sensitivity. There's a number of ways you can get them diagnosed. An allergist, they can actually test you for food allergies doing what they call a reactive allergen skin test, or what we commonly call the prick test, where they'll actually create small little incisions on your arm, expose you to the potential allergens, and see if your body reacts. Other tests you can get done, you can actually get blood tests where your doctor can measure the antibodies to specific foods, and if you have them present in your bloodstream, then likely those are the foods that you're reacting to. As well, there's something called ALCAT testing, whereby you basically react your white blood cells with the different food antigens to see which food antigens actually then trigger the white blood cells to react, again, demonstrating a food sensitivity. And last but not least is the good old classic dietary challenge. One of the things I do with most of my patients, and one of my most common techniques in my practice, is what we call an elimination diet. If I suspect food sensitivities, what I'll do with people is I'll have them 100% remove the most common allergens or sensitivity foods from their diet, do that for a period of anywhere between 6 and 12 weeks, and then I have them systematically reintroduce the foods and see which foods actually trigger symptoms or trigger a reaction in the body, be it, again, joint pain, skin rashes, dermatitis, autism symptoms, any variety of symptoms that we may be treating could be related to these food sensitivities. And simply by eliminating the food for a short time and reintroducing it, I find that a very effective way to assess whether you do have a food sensitivity. Now, if you do, the one thing to consider is that a food sensitivity has likely created some inflammation in your gut. And with that inflammation, It's going to disrupt the normal balance of bacteria. It can disrupt normal production of enzymes, and ultimately that disrupts normal digestive function. So in order to manage somebody who has a food sensitivity, obviously the biggest key, identify the food and eliminate it from your diet. Those are very important steps. And it's not the type of thing, if you do have a sensitivity, I typically recommend 100% avoidance. I myself, I grew up with eczema and asthma. And once I eliminated cow's dairy from my diet, those symptoms went away. And if I get exposed to it, then those symptoms come back. So for me, it's a non-negotiable. I remove that from my system, I remove that from my diet, but I no longer have to suffer with eczema or asthma. So in some cases, your disease can be that simple. It's not about, having to take an extra medication, having to use an extra cream. For me, it was as simple as just removing this one item from my diet to cure my condition. So that's why I often recommend the 100% avoidance strategy. Now, with that being said, I often also look at, once you've created this inflammation, it's now time to heal from it. So I'll often recommend, to reestablish proper gut barrier, supplementing with N-Acetylglucosamine and L-Glutamine. These two things help your body to be able to rebuild and recreate the barriers of your gut for proper digestive function and proper immune function. You can, ensure adequate intake of vitamin C and vitamin D. Again, both required for proper function of the immune system. I also often recommend supplementing with digestive enzymes as well as probiotics, again, to ensure proper breakdown of the foods to reduce the likelihood that you're going to become sensitive to food antigens. See, when you properly digest a food, you properly break down those antigens, you greatly decrease the likelihood that you're going to develop a sensitivity. And so for that reason, proper digestion is one of the biggest keys for reducing a food sensitivity. But of course, the most important point is avoidance. If you have a sensitivity, it's very important that you remove it from your system, because every exposure creates an inflammatory response, and that's what leads to the development long-term of disease. So I hope you've learned something that can help you manage your food sensitivities. Please share this with anybody you know who may be suffering from a food sensitivity. Check out more of our natural health videos, subscribe, and if you have any questions or comments, please post them below. And remember, knowledge is health.